I'm glad he kept his word.
I never keep mine.
He said he would be back, and then he came back. That means you can trust him.
Hello, and welcome back to the Uncultured Pop Culture Podcast. This is David, who is constantly messing up the opening, and I'm joined, as usual, by Brandon.
We're back. You didn't know that he would be back?
I had no idea. Yeah, I totally forgot what you were referencing to. I thought you were doing something with deadmau5, and I was just like...
David did not watch the movie this week.
What? So then I just said a random phrase. Now, ironically, I literally just rewatched this movie like a month ago without meaning to, in terms of like, I
swear to God, this has happened multiple times. Separate. I feel like what we're watching for the podcast is just like in your subconscious, and then you're like, what should I watch? Oh, this thing that I remember talking about a few months ago that I feel like I should watch again. And there's a reason for that feeling, because we're talking about Terminator today. Terminator 2, that is. The far superior one. I don't know. We'll find out. And we're talking about an EDM album, which is one of my favorite things to do. We're talking about deadmau5. So we got a lot to cover, obviously, but I think this is going to be a shorter episode because I don't know if you, dear listener, have listened to this album. You know that there's not a ton to say about it because the songs are like 8 minutes long and varying degrees of unchanging. But we'll get into all of that in a little bit because first I have to ask David, did you watch Minions and Monsters this weekend?
I did not.
Oh, you told me you were going to. Oh my God.
I was planning to, but I will see it next weekend. So in next episode, you guys will be hearing about it. I promise.
What did you watch in this past week?
You know what I have actually been watching a lot? I'll bring up a movie in a second, but I've also been watching the World Cup. And let me just say, it's been awesome, honestly. There have been some bad sides. Like there's been some controversies, obviously. But I feel like a lot of the games are just really like surprising in some ways. There's upsets, stuff like that. Brazil just got sent out on the day that we're recording. Germany got sent out really soon. So it's just like a really fun World Cup.
I watched a lot of the Argentina-Cabo Verde match. That game was so poorly officiated that I just kind of was pissed off at by the end of it.
You know what was worse?
Cabo Verde was still like in the mix until the very end, which I thought was exciting, but come on.
No, Cabo Verde did an amazing job. You know what was worse? The Paraguay versus France game. I swear the Paraguayan players were literally out to like maim the French players. The French side got 3 yellow cards. The Paraguayan side did not even get 1.
Wow. FIFA's corrupt.
In case you guys had no idea. But anyways, I did watch a movie this week. I saw The Sheep Detectives, and it was fun. A movie that you can kind of turn your brain off to, but in a good way. It was just like very cute. I gave it a 3.5. I probably wouldn't rewatch it, but it was fun.
I've heard it compared to Knives Out, but for kids. Do you agree?
It's not like to that level at all. Sorry, but it's just not. I get what they mean in terms of like, oh, they're both murder mysteries, but eh. But anyways, Brandon, what have you been listening to this past week? If indeed you have been listening, considering that I know that stuff have not been going great so far.
We finally had a good New Music Friday this week, and it was the 4th of July weekend, which was kind of fucked up.
That's ironic.
Yeah, usually one of the worst weeks of the year. But anyway, I will be talking about that on the TikTok series. By the time this episode comes out, I will already have talked about it on the TikTok series. Yeah. So make sure you're following us there. But anyway, I have instead been going back in time and listening to the full catalogs of artists that I did not know every song by. So I started doing this a few months ago, and there have been some good ones. I know I talked about the band Milk on here. I ended up listening to their entire catalog. Very good music. I listened to all of Hotel Apache's music, which I know I've brought up on the podcast multiple times before. I listened to Bank, Bayynk, not to be confused with Banks. This is a Kiwi dude making like EDM music. Very good. I enjoyed it. I listened to 90s Kids, who are now known as South Court, and I mentioned their new alias on the TikTok series. So make sure you follow us there if you want to hear about their new music. Very good, like indie rock. They might be one of my favorite, like recent discoveries. And I didn't really even discover them recently. I just kind of forgot that I liked their music this much. So it's been very nice to also get into all of these artists that I haven't like spent enough time with. And then finally, I just finished listening to all of Bloody White's songs, and I did not know anything about him. And he's very cool, kind of like alternative, like bedroom pop-ish. I don't even know what to call it. It's just very cool. So there's some artists for you guys if you're interested, but that's what I've been listening to because, you know, not really any good albums this year either. But with that, we got to talk about an album here. We're going to talk pretty shortly about this album. But I think it'll be a very productive conversation because we're going to know how each of us feels pretty much right away. Because this is, for lack of a better name, the fourth album by deadmau5, released September 22nd, 2009 by his independent label Mousetrap Recordings, Ultra Records, and internationally by Virgin Records. It was supported by 6.5 singles, and all but one preceded the album's release. More on that later. I do have to ask you, David, what have you heard about deadmau5 before?
Literally not a single thing.
Well, that's good news because deadmau5 is Joel Zimmerman from Niagara Falls, Ontario. I'm going to tell you all about him.
Ooh.
He got his start in the 90s making chiptune music when he was a kid, which is essentially just like video game style music. It's very like primitive electronic like synthesizers. Oftentimes you'd be able to make it without having access to like a big computer, and especially back in the day, like the amount of computing power that you would need to run a DAW or anything similar is like insane, incomprehensible.
I feel like you can hear elements of that in the album too.
Yes, very minimal, very intentional approach to everything.
Yeah.
He said in multiple interviews that he was inspired by Tears for Fears. He described their music as doing things outside of just the beat and guitar, which I thought was very interesting because that is like something that I've noticed with like the older music that I tend to like is it's like, oh yeah, there's something else going on, you know, synthesizers, drum machines, whatever that may be. He got his name because his computer started to smell and he took it apart to find a dead mouse inside. The stylization was decided because of the limitations of naming in chat rooms. He would kind of just made it as a joke, and then his friends were like, you should put out music. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll call myself deadmau5. He released anywhere between 2 and 5 albums before, for lack of a better name, depending on where you look. I went with Wikipedia's 3. Spotify only lists Vexillology, and Random Album Title is coming out before this. And Random Album Title, released in 2008, was his big breakout, featuring the song I Remember with Cascade. It was his first album on his newly established independent label, Mousetrap Recordings, and I briefly mentioned the label last season because that is where Skrillex released Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, and I also mentioned deadmau5 on that episode. So you have heard of him. Maybe you have not heard anything by him. But I do have to ask the question, and I assume the answer is no. Have you heard any part of this album before?
Nope. Not that I've consciously noticed.
I didn't think so, but you know, you never know. There was a chance with Ghost and Stuff and Strobe because those are the 2 big songs that like broke containment. The problem with albums in EDM is people weren't really making them. Well, this is an album. It's also kind of a compilation of songs that he played live and previously released either as singles or demos. It's also a mixed album, which was a very common thing to do at the time, especially in house subgenres. We experienced this on a few tracks of Clarity by Zedd, where the songs just flow into each other and you kind of don't really notice that they're changing or that the track is changing. The album cover features a blue variant of the mouse head, which he wears during live performances, and it appears on most of his album covers in some capacity. The genres covered here are tech house, electro house, and progressive house. Electro house we covered before on Clarity by Zedd, but it is essentially a more aggressive but still melodic variant of house. Progressive house is fully melodic and usually progresses as the song continues, culminating in a euphoric drop. And we covered a variant of it, Festival Progressive House, also on Clarity. And finally, tech house is a new genre for us. It is very minimal and repetitive, which you probably noticed are two great descriptors for the album overall.
Oh, yeah.
The way I've always identified tech house since I was younger is with the question, is this song kind of boring and too long overall? And I apologize if that's reductive, but, tech house is really not my thing. But you will see that, we can appreciate it. At least speaking for myself, I can appreciate it in some capacity. But David, I have to ask you, what were your expectations going in, and where did you think this would fit amongst the other EDM albums we've covered before?
Well, we didn't really discuss. I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week.
I said it was long, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of like the biggest thing that we talked about. Like, we didn't really get into the album. So I wasn't really sure what to expect when it comes to like the style of EDM it's going to be. I obviously like EDM. I did see that it is, a lot of the genres listed include the word house, which I like, especially like French house with like Daft Punk. So I was thinking that like I probably would like it. Going into this, I didn't think I would like it as much as something like Daft Punk or S.G. Lewis, though, because I feel like those are my two like favorite like EDM bands or artists of all time. But I did think I would maybe give this, honestly, like a 4.
I like it. I'm glad you went in with relatively high expectations, because I feel like that is partly my doing. I've primed you to be excited about the EDM that we're listening to.
Which makes me very happy.
This album received the standard good reviews from EDM publications and a more mixed reaction from general audiences and critics. I've seen quite a few people consider this deadmau5's best album, and even a few saying that it is one of the best EDM albums of all time. I don't know how I feel about either of those statements. I mean, I know how I feel about the latter. I think there are better EDM albums than this. I don't know if this is deadmau5's best album, though, because a lot of his are very long, and for that reason, I haven't listened to them in full.
Damn.
This album peaked at number 11 on the Billboard Top Dance Albums in the US, number 1 on the UK Dance Albums chart, and number 62 in deadmau5's native Canadian albums chart. The album also won Dance Recording of the Year at the 2010 Juno Awards, which is Canada's version of the Grammys. I should note as well, this is my first time hearing the album in full, although I did know Ghost and Stuff and Strobe, the two big hits, albeit I knew the radio edit of Strobe and not the 10-minute version. I have a history of not loving extremely long songs, and if there's a shorter version, I will.
Yeah.
I'll take that opportunity to listen to it, but more on that later. All songs on here are written, produced, engineered, mixed, and mastered by deadmau5. And I said your favorite song will be Strobe and your least favorite will be Hi Friend, although I don't feel confident in either of these, and I changed them each about 5 times. So I think I decided on every single song being your favorite or least favorite at some point.
I can see that.
I have stayed true to my initial reading of this album, though, and I have always thought that you will give this a 3.5. So I feel pretty good about that. And we got to start with track number 1, FML. What do you think that means, David?
Fuck, marry, love? I don't know.
Fuck my life. I didn't know if you were up to date on slang or not from 20 or so years ago.
Not very at all.
Also, I should probably mention this before we even get into... I don't have anything to say about this song outside of like my notes. I don't have any background. But I probably should have mentioned this earlier. deadmau5 is kind of a controversial and polarizing figure because he's kind of an asshole. And if you did your homework, I sent you a like 2-minute long song to listen to called deadmau5, Why You Gotta Be an Unprovoked Asshole. He said the F slur on stream. He's called people the R word. He says a lot of things that are very akin to an Elon Musk type, except he gives like very libertarian vibes. But also from the interviews I've watched and like knowing about him, he seems to care a lot about his music. And he also seems to just come off the wrong way a lot. So I can understand why he would always wear this giant mouse head for many years. It's kind of nice to have some anonymity there. But I did want to mention that because he is a polarizing figure and a lot of people have come out and said they don't like him, but he does still have a lot of his fans and a lot of people do consider a few of his songs to be among the best in EDM. But with that aside, this is for real, track number 1, FML. And I just wrote one thing about it. A pretty high energy version of a classic deadmau5 song. This one leans more on the electro house style, which works in its favor. As is the case with a lot of these songs and deadmau5's songs as a whole, they might be a little too long. I gave this a 3. I would love to hear what you think because this is going to set the tone for the album.
This is a very interesting style of EDM because in some ways, stylistically, I feel like it shares something with like Daft Punk, but it's definitely like, it's almost like the much more minimal version of that. And it's also the much longer version of that.
I did want to say, before you say it, because I feel like if you didn't have this note, you're going to be like, oh yeah. I feel like when I was listening to this album, I was like, oh, David's going to like this because it sounds like the Challenger soundtrack.
Oh.
I don't know if you ever thought about that.
Honestly, I didn't.
That's a very minimal, I think that's more like techno-y versus tech house, but tech house is like an offshoot of techno.
Yeah, I didn't like make that connection at all, honestly. I feel like, to be totally transparent, I much prefer the soundtrack of Challengers.
Yeah,
but
I assumed.
This is a 3.5.
Nice.
Like, it's interesting. I think there's a lot of like interesting shifts in it. And the fact that it's not the longest, I think, does kind of help. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's enjoyable because it's kind of just, and some people might get mad at me for saying this, but it kind of is a type of music where I can put it on and it'll just be in the background providing the vibes. Like, I'm not paying attention to it at all, honestly, if I were to ever put it on, like, while not listening to it for the podcast. 3.5, like, I enjoyed it.
Nice. Okay, we're starting off good. And I did also want to make the note that I feel like this is very good, like, writing music. Like, for you, when you're in the zone, and you're like, I gotta crank out these 10 pages. Put this on, it's just driving, it'll get you there. It's like, it's just constant.
I agree.
And that's good. It serves a purpose. Track number 2, more ghosts and stuff. The quote in this song is from the movie The Brain from Planet Arous. I don't know how does Arous. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Nope. I have no idea.
Okay. It sounds like a B movie to me.
Yeah.
Weird quote as well, I must say. This is a fun, full-on electro house version of the following track. I find it interesting that this version is first on the track list, but I guess it did prepare me / keep me waiting for the main event, which is the following song. That actually is one of 2 that has vocals in it.
True.
I gave this one a 3 as well. I think it's very solid.
I really liked the transition into this song. And that did throw me at first because the transitions are seamless. So I at some point I was like, okay, I need to pay attention. Like, I need to be watching the song, whatever it's called. I really like this production. Like, this is the type of EDM production that really works for me.
Hell yeah.
I would legit use this for a movie. In some ways, it kind of feels like gothic, which I like.
Yep.
Everyone knows I like that. So this is a 4. Like, we're just going up.
Nice.
Right now. And I don't want to say that this is my favorite yet, because there are a few other contenders, but this is a contender for my favorite. Let me just say that.
Okay, so 4 is the highest you go?
It is the highest, yes. But as we will see, I also don't dip very far down. Not to spoil things going forward.
Nice.
But yeah, this just, I don't know, the sound of it, the production really worked for me, which I feel like with this type of EDM is what makes or breaks it, because it is purely just the production. Like, that's all it is. Yeah.
We're getting like back to basics here.
Yeah.
No vocals, solely like just vibes for like 8 minutes at a time, which I love. I love music, and just when you like strip it down to its fundamentals of like, this note goes here.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm all about. I did also think you would like this song because it's like Kodak by Zed.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I was like, you know what? I could see it working for you. But yeah, okay. I just had to make sure that I didn't say this was your least favorite, because I did say it was your least favorite at one point, but then I changed it to High Friend as it's your least favorite. But we'll get there.
Worry, you did not say
anyway, we have to talk about the second part of this song, track number 3, Ghosts and Stuff, featuring Rob Swire, who also co-wrote this song. This is the second and also 6th single from the album. That's why there's 6.5 singles on the album.
Oh.
It was originally released in November 2008 as an extended instrumental version, which also contained parts of More Ghosts and Stuff. It was re-released as the vocal version we heard on the album on September 7th, 2009. It ended up peaking at number 53 on the Canadian Hot 100, just the regular chart, number 2 on the UK dance chart, and number 6 on the regular UK singles chart. Damn. Just like straight up in the UK.
That's wild.
And he said in multiple interviews that he got very famous in England before he like made it in North America.
Yeah.
So this is part of that. Europe was ahead of us when it came to dance music. They knew what was up.
It's like a reverse Beatles case.
It truly is. And I got to tell you, David, this song is also certified 3 times platinum in Canada, which is pretty cool.
That's wild.
Shout out Canada. Like, they actually ride for their guys.
Just shout out Canada in general.
Exactly.
Right now.
100% agree. Yeah, he's from Niagara Falls. Some people would say that's not even Canada and that's the US. Come on. What are we doing?
Classic US trying to take everything. What can I say?
We have the shit part of Niagara Falls too, is what I've heard. I've never been there.
Oh, same. I wouldn't know.
I really don't have any desire to either. I'm sorry. I'd love to go to Buffalo though.
It's just a waterfall.
You can't forget, David, there's multiple casinos there too, which I know you love as our resident gambling addict on the podcast.
What? Me? When did this become a thing?
I don't know. I'm making it a thing right now.
Oh my God. Okay, fine. I'll take it.
All right. Nice. Gambling addict. All right. Anyway, we're getting off track. I have to tell you that some sources say the vocal melody on this song is inspired by Wicked Game by Chris Isaak. Other places say it is an interpolation of Wicked Game. Either way, it like feels very akin to that song. What a banger. To me, this is the song of the album. I love Rob's vocals, and they really take the energy of the song to a new level. And I wrote such a Halloween song too, with that evil ass organ. I gave this one a 4, and it is my favorite on the album.
Damn. I did want to ask, what do you think of the vocals specifically?
Love the vocals. I like his voice, and he's part of Pendulum and Knife Party, which both I enjoy both of their music as well. But I like remember hearing this song probably on the radio, I think. It was weird. It was like once EDM was okay to be played in the US, so probably like 2011 when I heard it. And I was like, this goes crazy. This is like what I want out of a song on the radio. And I love the vocals. They border on like pop punk almost, maybe a little like metal influence there. He's got a very like screamy tone to it, which I really like. And it fits so well with the vibe of this song, because we also just heard the like super electro house stuff before this, where it's like, you know, I've talked about my theory that EDM and rock are just like the same thing, but for different audiences, you know? So this is another one of those, I guess. We
are going to start disagreeing a little bit, ironically.
I figured.
Again, I do like the sound of this. It obviously shares a lot of, you know, similarities with More Ghosts and stuff when it comes to the production. Although in some ways, I kind of feel like it's a blend of FML and More Ghosts and stuff.
I can see that. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more restrained.
I will say, though, the singing just doesn't really work for me. It's not bad. It's just, I feel like it personally takes away from it. So this is ultimately 3.5. It's still like enjoyable. I still like it, but it's not as strong as More Ghosts and stuff. Which is ironic because I feel like some of my favorite Daft Punk songs are the ones where they are actively like singing. So,
I mean, you don't like rock vocalists, it doesn't appear. At least not like this style of rock vocalists where it's like screamy and like heavy.
Yeah.
I tend to like that more. Track number 4, Hi Friend, featuring MC Flipside, who also co-wrote this song. This was the lead single, released August 17th, 2008. And I wrote, not bad, just repetitive. This straddles the line between electro house and tech house, but I think it works pretty well. However, it could have easily been around 3 minutes and it would have helped the song. I gave this a 2.5. It's fine.
When it comes to this song, I view it kind of the exact same way that I view Ghost and stuff. And the reason I say ironically is because they're the 2 songs with vocals on the album. Yep. I kind of had the same like reaction, although I will say like the production of Ghost and stuff works better. I think the production here also works fine. It has a lot of similarities, but it's not as strong. And then again, like the vocals are just not for me. They're not bad again. I'm just like, it's like a pretty good song. It's a 3.5 still. I would again put this on for vibes, but I definitely would not like actively come back to it, I guess.
3.5. I know I've said this before. Doesn't that feel a little high for this if you wouldn't come back to it?
I guess I mean more like it wouldn't be the first thing I put on. Like I would still put it on.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the first. I guess I should have phrased that better.
I just want to make sure because I was like, I don't know. Sometimes you'll say something, I'm like, damn, is 3.5 even lower than I thought it was? I don't know.
No,
but I don't
not,
think it is.
No. I misphrased it. It wouldn't be the first thing I'd put on.
I do agree with that. Track number 5, Bot. This was the 4th single, released April 1st, 2009. I don't know what to say about this one. It sounds relatively evil, but that's about it. Some cool arpeggios and percussion. It's tech house, and it's long. It's a 2.5.
It's interesting. I like how percussive this song is. But a lot of a lot of the distorted elements don't really work for me. I don't want to say they take me out of it, but I don't know. They're just not very pleasant to me, which I think we know I kind of have a history of. This is a 3. I don't have much to say. It's all right, but it doesn't work as well for me as a lot of the other songs do. And I think that's ultimately just because there are more elements in it that I don't like.
Track number 6, Word Problems. This song samples the Speak and Math Toy by Texas Instruments, and it was the 3rd single, released March 16th, 2009. There is a level of competence exhibited throughout the album, but my God, this one is long and unchanging. I swore I would never like a tech house song when I was like 13, and sometimes a song like this comes along and it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I was cooking. This one is a skip for me, and it is in the running for the Automatic by Prince Award for longest and most insufferable song in my book. This one is a 2. I don't like this one, and it's my least favorite.
Damn. Okay, I ironically like this a little bit better than the last song. I feel like the distorted, or like the elements that sound similar to Bot that I didn't like work for me better here. It's still quite repetitive, but I still enjoy it, which is ultimately why I kind of rests at a 3.5 and doesn't really go higher than that. But because I enjoyed it a little bit more than Bot, it is sitting at that 3.5. Like I wasn't mad at it, at those sounds.
As we continue on, I worry that your least favorite song is going to be Strobe and you're going to piss off a lot of people. But we'll get there when we get there.
Hey, I mean, we're right there.
Track number 7, Soma. One of the most interesting tech house songs on here. There's actually a melody and a structure that kind of makes sense. I gave this one a 3. It kind of won me back.
Yeah, I enjoy this song. I feel like it adds a little twist to the production of Word Problems. In some ways, it kind of feels like a pulse. It has like this sort of flow that is repetitive, but still works because it's kind of just getting you into that zone. I was not expecting to hear the piano. And in general, like the way that this song kind of moves is just really interesting. Like it switches up. It's like an experiment, but I think it's pretty successful. It's a 3.5.
Nice.
As you guys can see, like very consistent.
Very consistent. I'm glad. I once it started, it's one note. So I was like a little worried that you weren't going to like it. But then I was like, it is EDM though. I think you will like it.
It is one note, but I think the fact that it's EDM and the fact that it kind of feels like just a vibe that you can get into.
Yeah.
Helps. Like with this type of music, I can like listen to it and forget I'm listening to music and just have it in the background. And that makes me like it. If that makes any sense. We
making forgettable music out here.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean more in terms of like,
I know what you mean.
I just sink into a groove thanks to the music.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll put it like that.
I was like that too. I was typing out a bunch of stuff. I was doing research while listening to this album, and I was just kind of like, this is fun. Like it's just like,
yeah.
I don't have to think about it necessarily.
Exactly.
It's just there.
Exactly.
And it like stimulates my brain in a way that's nice.
I think that's always enjoyable.
Track number 8. Lack of a Better Name. This was the 5th single, released July 28th, 2009. I wrote, we have regained melody for 2 songs in a row now. Thank God. This one is truly all right, but that's about all I can say. It's got a nice bounce to it. 2.5.
This song has a lot of really interesting stuff going on, but it doesn't feel very cohesive. And actually, in some ways, I feel like it kind of feels disjointed.
I will say there are some kind of like weird melodic elements to it that almost feel kind of wrong. I liked it, like in a way. It's just long. That's why I gave it a 2.5, Like I like a long song every now and then, but when every song is super long and unchanging, it's kind of like, okay, I get the idea. I want to
100%.
clarify that. But I did like the melody on this one because it feels like off kilter in a way where it's like, I don't know, it just scratches my brain. And maybe it doesn't for you, which is like totally understandable because it is kind of like strange.
Yeah, I feel like that off-kilter like sound of it does just not really work for me. Like it just ends up feeling a little just disjointed. And that kind of paired with the length does make this a 3 and my least favorite song. I do think that at this point I was kind of feeling the length of the song and the fact that, they are in some ways repetitive, even though I obviously like that when it comes to the vibes of it.
like length of the song and length of the album, because like the album has gone on for a long time already, and then we got like a 9 minute and a 10.5 minute song coming up next, which it's still like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of album left.
Yeah, so this is a 3, and this is my least favorite song.
I respect it, and you will live to see another day because you didn't say Strobe is the worst.
Which, I mean, hey, a 3 is still like a solid score.
Track number 9, The 16th Hour, a slightly evil sounding classic long deadmau5 song. It's all right, and that's about all I got to say this week. I am truly sorry. This is a very, very quick album portion, maybe until the next song, because that's the one I have the most to say about it. This is a 2.5 as well.
I think this song actually has a different sound when compared to like a lot of the other songs in some ways. And I really, really like to build on this. I think that this is my favorite. I will go out and say it.
The 16th Hour is your favorite?
I think it's my favorite.
Whoa.
Something about it, just like, it feels close to Daft Punk in some way to me, which makes me just really enjoy it. And I think the fact that it has that build while being long makes that length kind of work for me. This is a 4.
David, I do have to point out, this is a track 9 theory for you.
Yep.
And the second week in a row, you've had a track 9 theory. This is big.
When I was writing my notes, I noticed that this is track 9 on this album, and I was like, wow, it's happening for me this season. It feels like we've kind of switched.
I think you're also growing as a music listener, because the old David from the first, 10 to 15 episodes, I feel like you would have been like, I'm kind of sick of the album by the time we reach the end of it.
Yeah.
But now you're having your favorite song as the second to last song on an album. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of you.
That is very true. Thank you.
We have one final track to talk about. Number 10, Strobe. This was the final single from the album, released December 13th, 2009, although some places also listed as coming out before the album in September of 2009. So who really knows? It peaked at number 13 on the UK dance chart and number 122 on the UK singles chart. So not as big of a smash as Ghost and Stuff, but this song is remembered very fondly in EDM circles. And deadmau5 said about it, Strobe was actually produced in a whole bunch of different parts. The intro wasn't originally called Strobe. It was called Then We Stood Still or something. And if you look it up on YouTube, you'll find that. And then the second part of it was done months later in a hotel room in England, where I thought I should expand on it. It was really done in a lot of segments, and I wasn't really thinking of anything in particular at any given time. I wrote, a beast of a progressive house song. I love the way it develops and constantly changes throughout its insane 10.5 minute runtime. See, I can like long songs when they innovate. This is one of those songs where I must say, I do love EDM. It's the only genre for me where a song without lyrics that's this long can stay so interesting and still make you feel things. It feels very longing to me. What can I say? I love melody and composition most of all, and when it works, those are my favorite songs. Of course, we must also have an evil-ass outro to remind us what album we just finished listening to. And I am going to give this a 4. Even though it's more of a 3.5 because of the length, I do love the shorter edit, and it would be a 4 as well. And this is just like an expanded edition in my mind. So we finish out the album strong with my other 4. What did you think? And how would this rank among progressive house songs? We listened to the best festival progressive house song ever, according to many people, with Language by Porter Robinson. How does this one compare to that song? And then how does it fare in general on the album? Because this is a very melodic one.
To be honest, I would need to go back and revisit the Porter Robinson song to directly compare it. Let me say, though, starting off, I was like, oh, it's a little slow. I kind of feel like it's eh. But then it just like evolves and the beat drops and it just gets going. And it has such a unique switch up that it just like starts working really, really well. And it could have been all over the place, but instead it ends up feeling quite cohesive, which I'm surprising because like there's a lot of changes in it. This is a 4. It's not my favorite, but this is a 4. It's not like comparing to like Daft Punk, for instance, because I feel like that's my benchmark. It's not to the level of their best stuff, but I would put it up there with like their good songs. And same thing with Porter Robinson. I would need to go back and revisit Porter Robinson's album that we listened to specifically to compare it with like individual songs. But I would put it up there with like the good discography for Porter Robinson and Daft Punk.
This is very exciting, and I'm glad we ended on a positive note, both with this song and the previous song, which was your favorite. In the matter of continuing the good vibes, I would love for you to go first and tell me what you thought about the album overall and what your score is.
I enjoyed this. It definitely was long considering how many songs are on the album, but it didn't piss me off. It worked, and it worked for the reason that I've said multiple times. It's because it is very like vibes based, and it just lets you kind of get into that groove, into the pulse of the song in a way. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I will say, I think that there is kind of a benchmark to this style of EDM when it comes to my enjoyment. I don't think I'm ever going to go crazy for this type of EDM. I'm never going to like it as much as Daft Punk or S.G. Lewis or that type of house music. But this is the type of house that I can enjoy in other very specific settings, like writing, for instance, where I need something to kind of fill out the background. And when it comes to that, I think this is very successful. Overall, this is a 3.5.
Nice.
In case you couldn't tell from my scores. So you were absolutely right. I would definitely return to like the songs that I gave a 4. I will add those to the eventual EDM playlist that I'm going to make.
Which you definitely need.
And I feel like this is an album that I could throw on and just like let it go, which I don't often say about albums. So I feel like that's something special about this.
That is a huge achievement. And I do have to say, it does pain me a little bit when you talk about Daft Punk and you love them so much and compare them to every other EDM act that we've covered.
Because no one can compare.
Exactly. I spoiled you right away, and I spoiled your enjoyment. Hopefully not of all EDM in the future, because I do think that there are great albums that we haven't heard yet. But it is one of those ones where it's like you just see this level of competency right away, and you're just like, oh my God, like this is just like next level. So... But I'm glad that you're still able to enjoy other EDM and find a place for this album, especially since you said you would listen to it in full, which I kind of can't believe.
And I will say, like, the fact that I discovered S.G. Lewis through the podcast means that there is other EDM that I will enjoy.
That is true. That's a good point. That is, unfortunately, kind of the same genre, like French house, almost disco house.
I think that's just my favorite. That's just ultimately what it is.
I think this is a very cohesive album. It does drag a little bit. Like, ultimately, I will never love tech house the way I love other house subgenres and many other EDM subgenres, but it is still a pretty much enjoyable listen. I ended up giving this one a 3, which feels a little bit low, but I don't know. There are just certain songs on here, I mean, Ghosts and Stuff and Strobe, that I feel like are just like, if the whole album sounded like that, like, yeah, this would have been probably a 4, maybe even a 4.5. But I don't know. There's just there's a few too many long songs, and when they're long and they're not my absolute favorite, I don't know. It can feel a little bit daunting at times. But you kind of already answered if you're adding these songs to playlists, and you said that you will return to this album as a whole, which means I have one other question for you. Do you consider yourself a fan of deadmau5 now?
I guess I would consider myself a casual fan.
I like it. And I got to tell you, David, I think every album that I've heard by him, there has been at least one song that I've liked at like a good level, like a 4. So
hey, that's awesome.
If I feel similarly about his other albums as I do about this album, I feel like you are going to like his other music.
I would think the same.
And if you were thinking, I really wish there was an album that was like double the length of this, well, he does have one for you. So we'll have to listen to that at some point.
I'm surprised he only has one, to be honest.
Well, he says he's going to be releasing an album this year too, which I am excited about. So we'll see. Yeah. I think the lead single was like 12 minutes long, if I remember correctly. And it was good too. So,
oh my God, that's so long.
If you like long music, you will love deadmau5. And I did lie. I didn't have one final question. I now have a final question because it is the transitional question. And I made a change this season because last season we watched Terminator 1 and we listened to heavy metal because I was not aware that the soundtrack was electronic.
I mean, I didn't know either.
Like vaguely electronic in Terminator. So I was kind of wrong about that. And afterwards, I was very angry with myself. And I was like, there's no way that I got that completely wrong, that we had a chance to listen to EDM and I messed it up and I passed on it. So I promised that I would not do it again this year. And I thought, I said, first of all, we are doing this album because I wanted to do EDM, and you said we should do Terminator 2. And I was like, thank God, because that I know for a fact is actually going to fit. So with all of that background, what did you think of this pairing?
I think it fits. I liked it.
Regardless of how you feel about Black Sabbath, which was what we did last year, and Terminator 1, do you think this pairing works better than last year's pairing?
I do. Yeah.
I agree.
I think it fits closer to like the style of Terminator 2, ironically.
I'm very happy with this one because the music is like mechanical and robotic and repetitive, and it feels like it's always driving and pulsing, but it like really works. I like this a lot, this pairing.
But it also feels very like streamlined and like flowing at the same time. So ironically, it fits both Terminators in the film.
I love this pairing, but we've only talked about one half of the pairing. So we have to talk about the second half, and some might even say the better half.
That's right, because we are talking about Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, it's ironic because now we know where the actual famous quotes from the Terminator franchise are. I guess aside from I'll be back.
I didn't know I'll be back. I didn't know Hasta la Vista Baby was from this. When he said it, I turned to my dad and I said, is that from this movie? And he was like, I think so.
I am also so happy that you watched this with your dad, and that was going to be a question.
Oh, yes.
I was going to ask if you watched this with your dad.
I watched the first one with my dad. He liked it all right, and he liked this one better.
Hell yeah. As most people do.
As I did too, and as I think you will too. So,
but yes, we are talking about the science fiction action film Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And here is the logline for you, the IMDb logline. A cyborg from the future, identical to the one who failed to kill Sarah Connor, must now protect her 10-year-old son John from an even more advanced and powerful cyborg.
That's pretty good. I don't think we need to know Sarah Connor and John necessarily, but overall, yeah, that is the movie.
Yeah, and I will say commendable amount of, it's commendable how much stuff they got into it. This film is, of course, directed and produced by James Cameron, who we have talked about when we talk about The Terminator. It's written by James Cameron and William Wisher. The cinematography is by Adam Greenberg. It's edited by Conrad Buff, Mark Goldblatt, and Richard A. Harris. The music is by Brad Fiedel, and it's distributed by TriStar Pictures. And of course, it is rated R.
Kind of crazy, honestly. This feels like a PG-13, I must say.
Yeah, I feel like, weirdly enough, PG movies back then were like PG-13 movies, but then R movies were also kind of like PG-13 movies. It's weird.
PG-13 really was a great invention. Thank you, Steven Spielberg, and whatever.
Yes.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think, was the one that you said created, or maybe it was the
second one.
Sequel,
yeah,
okay.
It was, oh my God, what is it called? Anyways, it was the second Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. But yeah, it also stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, and of course, Robert Patrick. Can you guess, after the first movie was a smashing success, can you guess who wanted to make a sequel right away?
I'm going to guess the studio, and also I'm going to throw in Arnold.
It was Arnold.
Oh, okay.
He pushed for a sequel. He said, quote, "I've always felt we should continue the story. I told Cameron that right after we finished the first film," end quote. So literally from the get-go, he was like, we should do it. But Cameron kind of was like, He didn't really show any interest until 1989. So quite 4 to 5 years after the first film came out, roughly. At which point he kind of seemed to get on board. He went to the production company Carol Co. and he kind of wheedled them into buying the rights for the film because he did not have them at that point. Owner Mario Kassar did get them in what he said was the hardest deal of his career, but he had a stipulation, and that was that the film had to be ready by the summer of 1991.
That's quick turnaround for a movie of this scale, though.
Yes, especially considering all the stunts and the CGI.
The CGI especially.
But Cameron agreed. And, with TriStar coming in to release the film, they started to work on it. And the first thing that Cameron did was he called his friend and co-writer William Wisher and he said, quote, "The good news is we're making a sequel. The bad news is we're already several months behind schedule." End quote.
Nice. Classic
Which
Hollywood.
is how it always is. Literally always. Now, they were going to announce the film at that year's Cannes Film Festival. So Cameron decided that he wanted to have the script done by then. Do you want to guess how many weeks that gave them to write the script?
10.
6 to 7 weeks to finish the script. Yeah, 6, 7. Ooh. Thankfully, though, like they had a lot of material left over from Cameron's ideas for the first Terminator that they were able to use. Although Wisher maybe didn't get on board right away all the time. When Cameron was like, oh, it's going to be about a Terminator that's sent back to protect John Connor from another Terminator, Wisher literally thought it was a joke. And he thought that it would be a boring movie. But eventually Cameron was like, no, that's what it's actually going to be about. And Wisher was like, oh, okay, fine. And kind of came on board. And they worked hard. They worked every hour, every day for those 6 to 7 weeks. The day before Cameron stayed up all night to finish the script. And he did finish it. He held up the flight in the morning. Eventually, he gets on the plane with a finished script and he hands it to Kazar and to Schwarzenegger, and then he falls asleep for the rest of the flight. And Schwarzenegger reads it, and then he's like, wait a second. Why do you have my character not killing people in the script? I'm the Terminator. I'm supposed to kill people. And Cameron was like, well, you know, it's the stuff with the kid. It's important to the story. And finally, Schwarzenegger says, okay, fine. Quote, just make me cool, end quote.
Relatable.
Yeah, relatable. So Schwarzenegger's on board. They pay him $12 to $14 million to return to the project.
That's a fair amount of money.
That's quite a lot. Of course, you have to get someone else back, and that's Linda Hamilton. And Cameron wasn't sure if she would want to return. But after long negotiations, she did return. Do you want to guess how much she was paid?
How low should I go here?
Quite a bit lower.
1 million.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
Yep.
For second billing too?
Yes, for second billing.
Jesus.
This was quite a bit more than she got paid for the first film, but she did express disappointment with the fact that there was such a big difference between her salary and Schwarzenegger's, and she should have been paid the same amount, if not more. Not to spoil it, but I feel like she is, in some ways, she and John Connor are kind of what make the film.
Yeah. Also, I don't think anybody should have been paid $15 million to act in the movie, but that's a separate point.
I mean, I agree. But another reason why I say that she deserved to get paid as much is because what we'll talk about right now, and that's her preparation for the film. In case you couldn't tell, she looks very different from the first film.
She's ripped as fuck.
She is ripped as fuck, and she knows how to use guns because she did a lot of work with a personal trainer. She went on a diet, and she received extensive weapons training. She was also looking after her infant son at the time, so she was literally getting 4 hours of sleep.
Insane.
Doing all this stuff, getting ripped. Yes. So she absolutely should have been paid the same. It's wild that she was not. She did impress Cameron with her gunmanship, though, and she got a compliment on her physique from Schwarzenegger.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Schwarzenegger, so that does mean a lot. Robert Patrick, meanwhile, was living in his car when he got cast. This was, in a lot of ways, like a big break for him. And he, in a lot of ways, got cast because Cameron wanted a very, lithe actor. Cameron said, quote, if the T-80 series is a kind of human Panzer tank, the T-1000 series had to be a Porsche, end quote. He wanted someone very light, very, fluid in a lot of ways.
A pretty boy.
Yeah, kind of a pretty boy. And hey, it works. In case you couldn't tell, he also went through a lot of training, including learning how to breathe exclusively through his nose because he wanted to look like a robot. And he trained so well that he could actually outrun Edward Furlong on his dirt bike.
That's insane.
I want to learn how to do that. Makes it easier to bully the kids. Anyways.
You can be faster than the bus then.
True.
You could run to work.
I'll run to work. I'll get there hour 45 instead of 2 hours.
Exactly. You can go through the mountains.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Run straight through them.
Straight through the mountains.
Edward Furlong, meanwhile, was discovered by the casting team at the Boys and Girls Club of Pasadena. Shout out. They do amazing work at those clubs. And Cameron described him as having, quote, surliness and intelligence. Just a question of pulling it out, end quote. He was, of course, referencing what he had to do as the director, pulling that out of Edward Furlong for his performance. It's kind of a weird quote.
Yeah.
Yes. I realized that as I was saying it out loud.
A little boy. Yeah.
Yes. Right. I had to give some context there. As far as I know, he's not done anything. Let me just throw that out there.
Okay.
He also went through work. He took acting lessons, learned Spanish, and also received weapons training. Honestly, his Spanish was pretty good for like a, I don't know, 10-year-old boy? I was surprised, let me just say.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's right, hasta la vista, baby. And ironically, Schwarzenegger and him bonded right away because he did not have a father. He grew up without a father. And Schwarzenegger not only filled that role in camera, but also behind camera, which I think is very nice. And I will say that Linda Hamilton did say it was excruciating listening to Schwarzenegger give Furlong tips about women, noting that they are the same age emotionally at the time. Interesting. The production started with a budget of $60 million. I am going to emphasize the word started. For reference, the first film had a budget of $6.4 million.
I did not realize it was that different.
Yes.
Holy shit. Also, $60 million in like 1989 or 1990 is how much now? Like 200 probably?
In today's money, 60,000 or 60 million would be $153 million.
Jesus. And that's what they started with.
Giant budget. And it will go higher. Now, in case you can tell, production was very difficult for a lot of different reasons. One of these is the fact that Cameron is a very dictatorial director and has a very short temper. The crew made t-shirts that read, quote, "You don't scare me. I work for James Cameron."
Yikes.
Unquote.
This is a Ridley Scott type of thing going on.
Yes. Well, and he is also a fanatic for physical and visual details. So they were doing a lot of takes a lot of the time. Something else that did not make it easier were the special effects and the action set pieces, which, I mean, yeah, that makes total sense. The freeway chase in particular posed problems. They got permission to literally shut down the freeway, but then they got all their electrical cables stolen, so they had to like find other ones. A lot of heavy rainfall also disrupted stuff. So just like a lot of problems.
They had a freeway chase. They had their river chase too, like in the concrete river. Like that cost a lot of money. They had to blow shit up too. Oh
yes,
my God.
it's crazy. And because of all that they had to film, they did have a very long like shooting schedule. Like it was long, but also they did not have much time for a lot of stuff. But the fact that it was like a months long schedule did pose another problem. And it's a problem with Edward Furlong specifically. Can you guess what it was? Something related with him being a 10-year-old boy or like around there.
School.
No, they had a tutor on set probably. Something related. Well, I guess I'll
Child
give it to
labor
you.
laws?
No.
Oh.
He had a growth spurt.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So he was becoming noticeably older and his voice started to crack. So they had to like find ways to work around it. This included him standing in a hole towards the end of filming when shooting with
insane.
Hamilton because he was noticeably taller. And they had to eventually overdub a lot of his lines so that his voice was consistent throughout the film. And that's why you do hear his voice breaking quite a lot, like in the finished film, because his voice started breaking throughout production. Now, the budget ballooned, and it ballooned all the way up to $88 million.
That's a lot of money.
$28 million above the original budget. And Carolco did get very nervous, and they proposed cutting a few scenes from the shooting schedule, including, and I want to hear your reaction to this, the biker scene where Schwarzenegger's in the bar and he says, "Give me your clothes and your bike."
I think that's a pretty good scene.
You can't cut that scene.
Okay, I thought you were going to say something completely different.
No,
you started that, I was like, no, you kind of do need him getting clothes, and also that's like the start of it. Also, that does not seem like it would be that expensive.
Yes, that's the first thing.
take.
Second thing, it's like such an awesome scene.
It sets the tone of the movie.
Literally. And Schwarzenegger agreed. He said, quote, "Only a studio guy would cut a scene like that," end quote.
Amen.
So, yeah. Now let's quickly talk about some of the special effects because I feel like you have to before we talk about the release. The special effects were a mix of practical special effects and CGI. They brought in legend Stan Winston, who we've talked about several times, and his crew. And they, for instance, made the nuclear explosion. They built a miniature Los Angeles to simulate it. And it's actually, according to several members of the U.S. Federal Nuclear Testing Labs, one of, if not the most accurate depictions of a nuclear blast ever created for a fictional motion picture.
That is the type of shit that James Cameron would do.
Yes.
Like, I 100% believe that.
When it comes to like the CGI, that of course includes the T-1000. It in many ways was a very risky gamble because CGI was obviously in its infancy and there was no fallback plan. So if it didn't work, the T-1000 would not work. Your villain would not work. But Dennis Muren and his team at ILM, who of course ILM worked on all the Star Wars films, they at the time were kind of the only special effects house that did like CGI like this. And this was a first in many ways. Like no one had done a whole CGI character. Obviously he's not always CGI, but the elements of him that are CGI, like those are in many ways like fully CGI when you have him as the liquid metal. And it was the first time it was ever done and they pulled it off. Some elements they did do practically or like involved practical elements with, but when you see like the liquid metal itself, that is CGI and it's crazy.
It is kind of insane how like it holds up decently well still too. Like obviously you can tell it's like one of the first, but like there's a level of like proficiency there that I was surprised by.
Yes, it is very surprising. Like it's at a level that it's, I don't know, is kind of not comprehensible when you consider what computers looked at the time. Similarly
to what I was talking about with deadmau5 too, where he was like making music before computers were like able to make music. Like this is just, it's just insane to me.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we will talk about how this also, you know, shaped in some ways the future of motion pictures and the use of CGI going forward, because this laid the foundation for another film that we will talk about. But
you think about the level of time that was put into this to like make all this stuff, it's just insane. And now you're going to just AI generate a movie. Like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Jesus Christ. I hated it so much. Something else that I briefly brought up before was extensive, and that was the sound effects. I mentioned before that John Connor was dubbed. Well, in general, a lot of this movie was dubbed with sound effects and Foley, which for those of you who don't know, those are the people that recreate the sounds to be recorded cleanly without like whatever interference on set.
I want to say I could tell the Foley footsteps, especially when Linda Hamilton was running down the hallway. I was like, those, I don't like the sound of it. It's just too loud.
And that entire sequence of her breaking out from her hotel, like hotel. That whole sequence of her, you know what I mean? But that entire sequence of her like breaking out of her hospital bed, all of that was done with Foley. There are no originally recorded sounds in that whole scene.
Interesting.
And in general, like there are entire stretches of this film where it's all done with Foley. So the fact that it isn't even more like noticeable, I think is quite commendable, honestly. And for instance, the sound effect of the T-1000 going through the metal bars was created by sound designer Gary Wrightstrom, who just literally opened a can of dog food, turned it over, and recorded the food oozing out.
Oh man, that's so
I
crazy.
brought that up because I knew you'd like that.
I do really love Foley.
Yeah, Foley's awesome. I honestly, man, maybe I should have become a Foley artist. It sounds fun.
It's never too late.
That's true. But hey, that's also probably dying with AI.
God, fuck everything.
Fuck everything.
I hate it.
Exactly.
This movie literally warned us about like the life that we are living today, you know?
Right.
That was the big takeaway I got from it.
And yet it's literally the type of movie where they would just AI it all now.
Oh, 100%.
With the same message though.
Seeing no irony there.
But eventually the film did wrap in March of 1991 after 6 months. And they went through post-productions and then they went through test screenings. And it was during test screenings where a very big change was made. And that was the ending.
I wondered.
Originally, Cameron had filmed an ending where you see an elderly Sarah Connor sitting in a park telling the story about the Terminator while John Connor, in his 40s, plays with his daughter. And you also learn that he is now running to be a U.S. Senator.
Weird.
So pretty much, it's like a happy ending. and the audience did not like it. And also Carolco did not like it. Cameron eventually realized that they were right, that it didn't fit the bleak tone of the film and that they had to change the ending. And so they did change it. They changed it to the road ending where the future is unknown now. And that was the film. It came out on July 3rd, 1991. Quick turnaround from the end of its shoot. Like, that's 3 months. That's absolutely crazy. Its final budget, because yes, it did go up more. Its final budget is estimated to be anywhere from 94 million to 102.
Jesus.
I don't know if that was like extra money for the special effects or editing or I don't know what.
They had to reshoot the ending and threw on another $8 million just for fun. I don't know.
But yes, it did go all the way up, but it didn't matter because this was a box office smash hit. It made anywhere from $519 to $520 million at the box office. In today's money, that's like over $1 billion, I'm sure.
I did want to ask as well, do you know how much the first movie made? Because I am curious how different this was, and if the insane increase in budget actually did like help it in a way, make a ton more money.
Yeah, the first movie made $78 million.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So this was like...
And that was what, like 7 years earlier, I think? So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was an increase of like 6.
That's
like
insane.
It was a lot more. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
So that budget increase did help.
The budget helped. I think that it would not have gotten this. It might have made like 300 million, but I think them putting all their eggs in the basket helped us get to 520. They did the right decision, and it paid off. And it also paid off critically. It got critical acclaim. It received praise for the special effects, the narrative, with a lot of people saying it was a big improvement over the original. Although I will say that a lot of people did point out that the first half of the film is a lot stronger than the second half, even though it's still an improvement over the original, especially because of the way it turns its story on its head with like one Terminator protecting John Connor, the other Terminator coming after him.
I don't think I necessarily noticed a big shift between the first and second half of the film, but I do think it was just better overall. And now that you say that, I did like the reveal. I thought that was probably the strongest moment of the film.
I think it's very successful, the way that it does it. And it kind of mirrors the original where, I don't know if you remember, but in the original, when Kyle Reese and the Terminator are trying to find Sarah Connor, you do kind of wonder if both of them are trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And then you find out that Kyle Reese is there to protect her. And I feel like they kind of do a similar thing here, where you think both Terminators are there to kill her or to kill John Connor, but then you find out that Schwarzenegger is not. So it's kind of like a parallel, which I like. I think it's very fitting in some ways. It's poetic. It rhymes, as George Lucas likes to say. At the 64th Academy Awards, T2 received 6 nominations for Best Cinematography, Film Editing, Makeup, Sound Effects Editing, that is a separate category, and Visual Effects. And it would win for Makeup, Sound Effects Editing, and Visual Effects. So 4 out of 6. And of course, now it's considered to be easily one of the best science fiction films ever made, and also one of the best sequels ever made, and a great example of when a sequel is better than the original. Its special effects are also revolutionary. It not only holds up today, but it in many ways laid the groundwork for modern CGI. In many ways, Jurassic Park would not have been able to be made without Terminator 2.
Very interesting.
Yeah, this like showed a lot of people that CGI like this was possible for the first time. So in many ways, this is like the granddaddy of all CGI films, which has both positive and negative side effects.
Yeah,
as we all know. And in 2023, the Library of Congress selected T2 to be preserved in the National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And with that, I have to ask a very important question, because this is the very, very first time that we are covering a sequel on this podcast, and we are covering this as a sequel to a movie that we have watched on the podcast. So I have to ask, how did Terminator 2 compare to the first Terminator? And give us a refresher on what you thought about the first film and a score that you gave too, because I feel like it's important.
Yeah, first film was a 2.5. It was fine. It was kind of whatever. I got done with it and I was like, all right, yeah, it's pretty standard. This one was better. I don't think it is like 2.5 to 5. I will get that out of the way. I don't think it's night and day better, but I did enjoy this one a lot more. I think it's more rewatchable. I think there's more of a, I don't want to say like cohesive story, because there was a cohesive story in the first one, but I don't know. It feels like
more thought out.
Yes,
I think.
I agree, which is weird because it was written over the course of 6 or 7 weeks as well, which I don't know.
Hey, who knows?
I have long thought that maybe your best work is done under like the craziest time constraints. So
it maybe stops you from second guessing yourself
and committing to the initial idea you have and making sure that that one has to work because you have no other options, you know?
Well, and I think that in some ways, the central idea itself just gives you more to work with compared to the first. At the end of the day, it's just cooler. Like, the ideas are just cooler. Having two Terminators fight, it's awesome. Like, it lays the groundwork for a lot of awesome action, which is just more enjoyable.
I will say the budget increase was also noticeable. Like, it just felt so much more polished, which I liked as well.
It felt more polished, and the action scenes feel so much more operatic.
Yeah, they're grand.
In a bombastic but very fun way.
It reminded me a little bit of the action from Die Hard.
Yeah.
I will say.
I agree. I completely agree. It's like that classic 90s action. Well, something else where you can definitely feel the budget, and I think probably the biggest like glow up from the first film is the special effects, which I wanted to ask you. We kind of touched upon this. Thoughts on the special effects? Do you think that they pull it off, considering that this was made in 1991?
Definitely. It is kind of insane that they were able to make the first Terminator look, I guess, relatively as good as it did.
Yes.
But then you compare it to this and it's like, oh yeah, there's no comparison. Like, this is just like so much better. I think in every way, it was better. I didn't love the lightning in this movie still, which was a big thing that was in the first movie. Yeah. But like, I get that it's part of the universe and that's like what it looks like. So like, I was okay with it for that reason. But that was the only time where I was like, this doesn't look right. But like everything else, I was like, damn, they actually did a pretty good job with a lot of the effects, both real and CGI.
To me, this still holds up. There are some elements that are a little bit janky, but I think that they are so few and far between that they never take me out of the film the way that they kind of do in the first film.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the first film, I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. For the time, great visual effects. Now, you can tell it's visual effects. Watching this, I'm like, yeah, that's just the T-1000. And I think that idea behind the T-1000 is just really cool. And the fact that they are able to pull it off and the fact that it still looks good, I think in some way kind of makes the special effects for the film. Like, it makes everything else work. You know, like, that's the most important part to get. Last question I have, because this is something that a lot of people talk about. The relationship between the T-800, whatever the Schwarzenegger's Terminator is, I can never remember.
Schwarzenegger, yes.
And John Connor is often cited as another reason why this film is a big improvement. They say this film has more heart in it, and it's much more developed than Kyle Reese-Sarah Connor relationship. And they also credit Edward Furlong's performance with why this movie has, in some ways, more heart and why this film is better than the first film. Do you agree? Do you think this relationship is kind of what makes this film kind of stand out more?
I would say yes. This is another case of, I don't know how to phrase it. I was going to say David likes little kids again, which is not what I want to say.
Oh, God.
I think that this, well, I didn't say it, so it's okay.
Thank you.
I
you
think,
insinuated it by saying you're not going to say it.
I mean, yeah, but like, so, it's true in a way. You do like stories about kids this age.
I do.
You know? And this was one.
I'm drawn to stories about this.
Right.
About like kids in this age, yeah.
The kid reminded me of The Sandlot.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. That just sounds stupid, but like, that's what I thought of. Like, I feel like his acting was like, it was serviceable.
Yeah, it was solid.
That's fine. I do think the story overall and the characters that are like moving the story along is like better than what I remember of the first Terminator. I don't think it's like amazing. I don't think it's to the level of Die Hard. I'll spoil that right now. This is not you know, it's not at that level, or Mad Max as well. I should also shout out. It works better. And I think the heart not only is between the kid and the Terminator. It's also, John Connor and his mom, who
I agree,
are kind of the only two people that really know what's going on. And I feel like that relationship was also very good, even though they didn't get like a ton of screen time together or a ton of like development in a way. They still, like, that relationship really pushed the story along, which I liked a lot.
Yeah. It's still really well developed, I feel like. It feels very genuine. Especially considering the circumstances that they're in. Like, it feels like it fits those circumstances as well. Those are all my questions. So now I'm kind of kicking it over to you for your general thoughts.
I have an interesting review that provides some important context for me that I didn't know I needed. This is from Dumbsville on Letterboxd. If Blade Runner didn't exist, this would be my favorite movie about robot existentialism.
Oh.
I think it's interesting because I hated Blade Runner. We know this.
Yeah.
I did not hate this movie, but I didn't think it was to the level of other movies that we've watched on here. It's a step up for sure from the first Terminator. I don't think this is like the greatest action movie ever, though. I feel like a lot of what that budget went to, and I don't mean this to be rude, and it's going to sound like it's rude. It didn't buy the greatest actors ever.
Yeah.
I don't know that this story needed the greatest actors ever, but I don't know. I feel like I connected more with Linda Hamilton in the first movie. I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger did a good job here, a good performance. Some of the emotional stuff, I don't know. It's still hard because he is ultimately a robot in the movie. Like, it's hard to kind of portray emotion that way. The kid, I don't know. Kids are very hit or miss when it comes to acting. I thought he did a good job. I don't think it was like the greatest performance ever. But I wrote down that it's a good movie, a very good movie, but the emotional parts don't hit for me like they seem to for everyone else.
I get that.
The action isn't as intriguing or never ending as something like Mad Max or Die Hard, which ultimately, when it's an action movie, I just felt like those two were kind of at this level of like Die Hard for the level of the explosions and like the tension building, and then Mad Max for just the like everlasting, just constant action that was just like so propulsive.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving this movie a 3. I thought it was good. I thought it was better. It is
step up.
It's a little bit of a higher 3 because I think the first movie was kind of a low 2.5 as well. This is definitely a step up, though. It's a step up that feels more like a full point versus just half a point. But the way that the scales fall, I think this is ultimately still a 3 because those emotional moments just didn't hit as much as I wanted them to, or as much as they seemed to for everyone else. But I am curious what you think about this one. I mean, I know that you think it's better than the first one, but how much better is it than the first one? And what did you give the first one?
So let me refresh. Back in season 1, I gave Terminator 3.5. Upon seeing the sequel, and with time, in my mind, the Terminator now has a 3. Not a bad film. It has lowered. I still think it's like a solid film. It's still enjoyable, but in my mind, it's not very rewatchable, especially when compared with T2. Now, before I give my score for T2, let me talk about it. First of all, this improves in every way on Terminator 1. I think it like takes all the elements in that film and kind of like brings them up to 11. As I said before, the effects are better. The action is much better, more bombastic in a way that I like. And for me, the emotional center of the film is much stronger. It works better. It's not like amazing. It's definitely not Die Hard. I do think that the action and the emotional elements of that film and the comedy of that are much better. It's a 5 for a reason. This is not a 5. Let me throw that out there. But it's much stronger than Terminator for me. And I think ultimately that comes down to one performance. And that's Sarah Connor, aka Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Honestly, I feel like she is the standout of the film when it comes to her performance. I think she gives the best performance. And not only like when it comes to like the physical performance, her emotional performance I think is really well done. And she stands out for me. And I think in some ways it's because of that her relationship with John Connor in the film is so well done. Now, talking about the kid, I agree, not the best child actor, but I think he does do a good job. He is not to the level of like the Sandlot kids, in my opinion, but I think he does a well enough job to where like his relationship with the Terminator also works very well. And it ends up like just, it's easier to invest in it emotionally, pretty much at the end of the day. All of that kind of leads me to the fact that this, I think, is a significant step up over the first film. And it sits at a very good 4. And I would rewatch this. I think that's the ultimate thing. It is just much more rewatchable and just much more engaging than the first film.
I agree on all counts.
We just had a very successful episode, I think, with both the music and the movie.
And I think you even more successful than I.
Yeah.
Which, that's always fun.
Well, and I will say, didn't you give both things a 3?
That is true.
But they're perfectly paired for you.
Perfectly balanced.
Yeah, as all good things should be.
I was waiting for you to finish that. Just like you, listener, are probably waiting for us to finish this episode because it is that time. We have reached the end.
Absolutely.
And like you said, David, I think this was a very successful week. Whenever we listen to EDM and you like it, that is a success in my book because that is more than I thought I could even ask for at the start of this podcast.
And whenever we watch science fiction and you tolerate it, that's a big win in my book, considering our track record. Let me just say that.
So if you liked this episode, if you want to come back for more, if you want to support us, leave us a review, leave us a like, leave us a comment on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, and tell anyone you suspect may be a cyborg from the future.
If you want to tell us why you think that we are two emotionless robots that maybe are bringing AI to the world, you can email us at upcpod@gmail.com. That's right. I don't mess that up anymore, guys. You can also follow our Linktree, which is in the description of this episode and is in our Instagram bio as well. And there you can find our Letterboxd pages and our Rate Your Music pages where you can see what we have rated, both what we discuss here and what we listen and watch outside of the podcast as well. You can also find our TikTok and our YouTube pages where we not only post the episodes, but also fun extra content, or at least Brandon has been. I have been not, sadly. If you want to return for our next episode to listen, which you really should, follow us on Instagram to see what our next episode will be. The songs are going to be even longer.
Oh, yeah. We'll see you next week.
Bye.